Sara Blackmer is a decorated United States Air Force Lieutenant Colonel who is, I believe, retired. She made the transition into the world of business and has become an award-winning tech entrepreneur. She is the managing partner of Solyco Capital, a private equity firm. Welcome to the show, Sarah.
George, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, excited to have you on. Tell us a little about your personal lives, more about your work, and why you do what you do.
I am a mom, married 26 years now. I've got three amazing kids. My eldest two are at university. My youngest is still in the house in high school. We got two dogs and a cat, and I love to hike and read. I am an avid reader. That's probably all of the more about my personal you would ever want to know. And more about work. Solyco Capital is a private investment firm that pretty uniquely marries what we think of as sort of the best of a bunch of different worlds. So, we take the highlights we think that venture capital offers to the community and pair those with the highlights of private equity, throw in a little investment banking. And maybe some strategic advising. And in this vertically integrated, magical place, we formed Solyco Capital. It's been a really exciting journey for me so far.
And none of it, life is a straight line, or perhaps it is. And perhaps when you were a young person, you said, "I'm going to go into the military, then I'm going to go into investment." Or how did it all shake out?
Daddy was in the Army, and so I'm a brat. I'm an Army brat. For all of you Army brats out there, let me give you a shout out. We are a special breed. But I grew up understanding a lot about a very little about a whole lot of things, I guess. A lot of breadth from having that sort of experience. It was a fascinating way to grow up and gave me context for a global perspective that I'm not sure that most American youth have the, opportunity to have exposure. So when in my households, you learned from a very young age that independence and responsibility were a real thing. And so when you're 18, you're on your own. You better figure it out. And so I knew that I wanted to go to university and I had to figure out how to pay for it. And so that really led me to how am I getting a full ride scholarship? And the military offers full ride scholarships through ROTC program. So I said, okay, that sounds like I can do that for a period of time. You owe them 4 years. I was offered a full ride scholarship for the Air Force and a full ride scholarship for the Army. My father was career Army. And I said to him, I'm 17. It's very overwhelming. I feel like I'm choosing my whole life path in this one decision. How do I choose this? And he almost pats me on the head and he goes, "Oh, Sarah, aim high," which is the slogan for the Air Force. So I did. I aimed high, and I am a proud retired airman. And that was an awesome experience for me. People say to me all the time, very generously, "Thank you for your service, and you really appreciate what you do." And my response always back is, I feel like the Air Force has given me, more than I've ever been able to do from a service component. There is something really special about spending time doing things outside of yourself, greater than yourself, and giving back. And I think that's been pretty foundational to who I am. I also went to the University of Michigan as an engineering student. So I am a giant tech nerd. And so what I have tried to do over the course of my career is pair advanced technology or really high-end tech to some sort of service component, a give back. How do I make the world a better place? And it has not been a straight line, but anything advanced technology has been really exciting for me. I've grew up in defense, so I really knew that space. When I left active duty, I stayed in the defense industry, so supporting, our men and women in arms to provide them with myriad different kinds of equipment, but mostly related to cutting edge technology transferred in a way that's going to be useful in the battle space. And that's been, first it started out as fighter jets, and then it was alternative energy, robotics platforms, just myriad research and development technologies kind of at early stages, advanced performance ground vehicles. That moved me into high-end compute hardware, like things that would power high-fidelity simulator systems or niche data centers. And it was there that I met Solyco Capital. And it was interesting because this opportunity arose to affect a lot of really burgeoning, technologies that were really coming of time to be able to do good. One of Solyco's, pretty I think highest valued core values is this idea of doing good, really making sure that, we're having an impact for a positive space. And that was really inspiring, aligned really nicely, with what it is that I do. So my journey sort of took me on this sort of winding road, but there were two very consistent pieces. Consistent piece number one is something really in cutting edge advanced technology. Consistent piece number two is it had to be doing good, making the world a better place. And I found my way to Solyco, and it's been a blessing for sure.
I love it. Excellent. Outstanding, even, Sarah.
Outstanding.
So, being that you are an Army brat and so you had all those experiences of moving around, I'm sure that that teaches you so many different things and teaches you to be a resilient kid and to fit in and good things like that. Was How was your experience in the Air Force? Did you feel like you were an outsider, or did you feel like it was natural? And I imagine that there were more men than women.
Yeah. Hmm. I don't think that I ever felt like an outsider. Do I feel like it was natural? I don't know. We do a lot of weird things in the military. Now it feels very natural. My sister will sometimes joke and she says, "Can you just talk military?" I think it sounds so cool. And I don't even recognize sometimes that I'm using language or jargon or, attacking things in a certain way. Like I just use the word attack. Most people don't probably use that in their normal lexicon. I don't even think about it. So did I find it natural? Maybe no, but did I find it an excellent fit? Yes. And did I feel like I was, involved and integrated and impactful right from the beginning? Also, yes. I was really lucky to have a cadre of staff at the university who helped understand what my strengths were and translated those to career fields. And so aircraft maintenance was my job. And it was an awesome, awesome fit for me. First, because you're really on the front line of technology, everything to do, with our aircraft. And I'm very technically inclined that way. So they knew I would have an aptitude just for understanding the maintenance, and what was required. But then second, it is, the second, I think, greatest leadership opportunity from a population perspective. So aircraft maintenance and security forces are your largest population of people that are in units in the Air Force. And so, they knew that I had a leadership aptitude from a pretty young age. And really, the University of Michigan, I think, accepted me because of my leadership aptitude. So that's always been something, leadership, even from as early as, I don't know, 8 years old, when I was the, patrol leader for my Girl Scout troop. It's always kind of been something that I've done is understood how to put together a group of people and drive all of us towards, achieving a mission. As far as the male female thing is concerned, yes, I was in the minority, certainly, as an officer, but then also in maintenance, especially. My career field in general put me into a male dominated career field being an engineer. From Michigan, I graduated with a naval architecture and marine engineering degree. So that further put me into a male dominated path. Shipbuilding is pretty old school, pretty male dominated. So I knew what I was getting into. But I think I've thought about it less as being a woman in a man's world and more as this is how my brain is wired and how I think and what I'm really good at. And I just continue to work really hard to be good at what I do and to bring people along with me. And that's been pretty successful so far.
It sounds like it has been. So, well, I
I
think
loved
that's
every bit of my time in the military. I miss it every day. I loved the camaraderie. I love the smell of jet fuel.
let's
I
go.
miss the sound. I miss the sound of the flight line. It's really great.
Oh, Sarah loves the smell of jet fuel in the morning and the sound of the flight line. Let's go. I think that all right. And I'm sure that you're exhausted by, and maybe your own children have occasionally made excuses and said, "Oh, it's these other people," and you say, "No, you need to take responsibility for your life." And it sounds like that's exactly what you just sort of laid out, that if you focus on doing what you are good at, what you enjoy, what you want to do, what you can control, then you're probably going to be successful in any field, regardless of the kind of human beings that that field is comprised of.
Yeah, I think you have a really, I think everybody has an opportunity to influence, regardless of whatever their position is. And what I parent to my children, but what I also communicate to my teams is that, your responsibility as a contributing human is to be an influence for good. And if you think about yourself as, the pebble that goes into a puddle and all this rippling that comes out of that, you want all of your rippling to be good. And what will happen as you impact your sphere is that that sphere will grow and it will impact other spheres. And then those people in those other spheres will do the same thing. And eventually, if all of us are doing good, we will, in the end, truly deliver against this idea of making the world a better place. And so I hold myself pretty accountable to that. I hold my teams accountable to that. I certainly hold my children accountable to that. So far, my children have been fantastic. They do deliver. It's funny how they go from an age where, they know everything to an age where they recognize that they don't know much. Come back to you. And it's a pretty exciting time. But yeah, so I certainly believe in responsibility and accountability. I think they're key tenets of good leadership, but I think they're key tenets of just good humanity. And you should use that with the idea of how are you doing good or making things better or improving your surroundings.
Appreciate that. Totally agree. The reason I was asking is my understanding is that now you are not just making investments in companies, but you're actually going in and helping to influence culture, helping to influence, just taking a more active role, hands-on role. And so the experiences that you've learned, everything that you've laid out, probably has served you in entering an environment where you're not a stranger, but not somebody who's founded the companies, not somebody who's been there before, and are able to actually have an impact versus be an impediment or anything other than that.
Yeah, there's two things that I think that Solyco does that are really cool. So the first thing is that Solyco invests in disruption. So things that are fundamentally changing the face of whatever business that they're in. And we're pretty agnostic to what that is. We're not picking a particular market vertical and really focusing on that, or a particular technology area and really focusing on that. We're finding, disruption. What is really going to make a difference for good? And then we invest in that. How can we double down on that or nurture that or provide, additional resources for that? And I am personally pretty inspired by that. Not everything we invest in is technology. I stay mostly on the technology side, just because of my background. I am the tech nerd of the team. Most of the rest of our partnership are financial, professionals of some sort, legal potentially, but I'm the engineering nerd. That said, we invest in more than technology, but I really love the disruption mindset. And then the second thing that I think that Solyco does really, really well is that we don't just throw money over the fence like might happen from a traditional venture fund that says they're investing in disruption. We want to be really hands-on and make sure that that money is being deployed in a way that's going to result in success for that company. And this idea of the disruption of whatever it is. And so part of our model is that we work shoulder to shoulder with the teams that we're investing in, to help them generate results, either monetize faster or achieve growth objectives higher than what they could have done on their own. And in some cases, we take a pretty hands-on role. Sometimes it's advising, sometimes it's a board seat, sometimes it's helping to review strategy, and recognize pitfalls and help. Sometimes it's a big problem has arisen, and we help devise what the pivot strategy or plan will be to help successfully navigate that challenge. In some cases, we take on roles, either roles in the C-suite, or in some sort of business development capacity. And in one case right now, I'm deployed as the CEO of one of our portfolio companies, Fluid Logic. Fluid Logic is a human performance company that's helping to keep athletes and high performers properly hydrated so that you're at your peak cognitive and physical performance. So really cool from a, make the world a better place kind of a perspective. And my role then to come in as CEO was not just to help chart a course for how to be successful, but also to build a team, also to sort of reshape and then hone in on a culture of collaboration and execution to really deliver against this promise of performance that comes from doing water right. I'm so really inspired by the idea of helping people be the very best versions of themselves, physically and mentally, just by helping them drink water the way that we were intended to do. But I think that the Solyco model has helped provide a platform to be able to really dive into, some of those things, the leadership pieces and the culture pieces, and certainly driving objectives.
Well, that is sounds like you're getting to do a lot of the things that you love, or most of them.
Yeah, for sure. I'm very well suited for it. I'm also the token operator of our team. We have a lot of financial strategists, a lot thinking about deal shaping, driving, what kind of structures, our investment platform should look like. That is not my forte. My forte is taking assets and making them as exceptional as possible. And so I work in the business, in the asset piece of the business as one of our managers.
Make things as exceptional as possible. Is that what you said?
That's what I said.
Do you find that you need to slow yourself down, lower your expectations, help people increase theirs?
Such an interesting question. So I am often accused of being intimidating. And I don't understand that. I think I'm pretty approachable and personable, but I have a really high bar when it comes to performance and expectation and execution for myself. I am a classic overachiever. I really feel like I have been blessed with so many gifts that it's my responsibility to use those gifts to their max potential and capacity. And I think that there's a give back. I've been given those things. It's my responsibility to give back. And because of that, I'm a pretty hard charger. I get a lot of things done. I have big vision. I've got a big idea for what, I don't ever think small. And so I know that sometimes that's challenging, for people. And sometimes I think that's especially challenging when that hasn't been your mindset or your lifestyle or your approach. And so I do spend some time trying to make sure that I'm not driving so fast and hard, but that I am providing an environment where I can bring a team, with me to do that. But I will say that starting from the military and really in all of my opportunities, I seek out really high performing teams where I am an asset that's exciting, not an asset that's a threat. I don't want to be a part of a team where I am, scary or where people try to think about how do I shut that down or, I need to control that. It's more like, oh my gosh, I'm so glad Sarah's on our team. Let me release her to go be crazy good at something. And when I build a team like I'm building at Fluid Logic, I really focus on how do I construct a team that is high performers, but that can collaborate well together. I'm not looking for an all-star team that doesn't know how to play together nicely, that's really good at being solo. I really need to create an environment where people will communicate well, will collaborate well, will have each other's backs, we'll jump in and work together to solve a problem. And I think Solyco's team is also like that. So I kind of get a double whammy of really amazing teams. I like to think of it as steel sharpens steel. The better you are with people who are better than you, the better you're going to get, and the better you're going to get together. And I really always am trying to surround myself with pretty impressive folks.
Yeah, well, I think that that certainly does make a lot of sense. And just for the record, Sarah, I don't feel intimidated by you. I feel like you're an incredibly accomplished, impressive human being, but I find you to be very, very pleasant to talk to. So,
George, thank you. And we
yeah,
should be friends.
for sure. Totally agree. I had, and now I'm unfortunately not going to be able to pull out of my brain exactly who it was, but it was somebody in the military, and they told me we were talking about how it's such a unique opportunity slash challenge to manage in the military because you don't get to go choose the team members. It's you have your unit, and we need to accomplish our mission regardless of what's going on. So I always thought that was really interesting. And now you obviously have maybe the best of both worlds because you are doing the best you can with the raw material that's present, but then you can also potentially go out and find other performers as well.
Yeah, I will say that that mindset in the military is both amazing and challenging when you get into corporate life. It's amazing because you really learn how to motivate and how to pull out the best in people because you get dealt a hand and that's the hand you have to play. What's challenging about that is that I have a tendency to work much harder, much longer to try to figure out what the goodness is and what the strengths are and how to leverage those when sometimes it's probably just not a great fit. And Jack Welch is an old school leader. I know not everybody loves him, from GE back in the day, but he talked about, um, if you're not going to be an A player in my space, then this probably isn't the right job for you, and you're going to be way happier being someplace else. And so am I. And I think a lot about, everybody wants to be good at what they're doing. Nobody wakes up in the day and says, you know what, today I'm going to go to work and just suck. Like, nobody does that, so you want to give people an environment where they can be really good at what they do. And if they're not, you want to help them find an environment where they can be really good at what they do. In the military, the balance that came from here's the hand that you're dealt, play it, was two things, I think. The first of those things is that there was a training environment that level set the playing field. Everybody got the same training every time. So everyone got the same basic training related to, as a shared experience, actually, related to how you wear your uniform, how you salute, how you're in the military, military history, military communications, the standard norm for how we operate, how we're structured, how all the pieces and parts work together. Like we're all trained on that. And then you're individually trained again on whatever your career field or your job is. So, if you're an aircraft maintenance officer, you go to aircraft maintenance school for 6 months. If you're a pilot, you go to pilot training for 12 months. If you're an avionics technician, you go to avionics technician school for, 14 months. Whatever it is, like you get an extensive amount of training in that space. And then you've got continued training for the whole rest of your career. And it's all very structured and codified. So you know what level you're performing at and what you need to do to get to the next level. And there's training manuals and, tools and things that all exist. And that is more elaborate than what most companies ever have. And it's not only from a technical skills perspective, it's also from a leadership skills perspective. And so here's the hand that you've been played, play it, or that you've been dealt, play it, is really enhanced by this shared training that you can leverage all the time, that you miss out on pretty extensively in corporate. And then the second thing is the military also gives you a command structure. So there is a very clear chain of command, and everybody understands where they fit in the chain of command. And almost everybody, I would say, everybody agrees to that. When you sign up, you agree to the fact that you're going to be in a chain of command. None of that exists in a corporate world either. And so, the fact that I know that you have to come to work tomorrow because if you don't, you could be held subject to the Uniform Code of Military Justice for, being absent is not what happens in the corporate world. I just don't feel like showing up tomorrow because I hate you and I quit. They're just not the same. And so in the military, you have this structure that I think also allows you to do a better job with this idea of this is my hand. Whereas I don't think you have those same skills and tools on the corporate side that you would have to deal with it on the military side.
Beautifully said, Sarah. Well, thank you so much for coming on. Where can people learn more about you? How can people engage with you?
Yeah, so me personally, I always tell people that I'm on LinkedIn. I'm always happy to connect, with folks that are relevant to what we're doing. I encourage anybody to check out what we're doing at Solyco Capital. You can find us on Instagram and also on LinkedIn. You can find us online, solycocapital.com. But if you are, investing in the alternative space, I really encourage you to come check out what we're doing. We've got high yield, high impact investments that are pretty well diligenced. And, people bet on us as much as they're betting on the investment that they're making. And I think it's a pretty unique and awesome model that we've got.
Love it. Well, if you enjoyed as much as I did, show Sarah your appreciation. Share today's show with a friend who also appreciates good ideas. Learn more about Sarah at LinkedIn and learn more about Solyco Capital at solycocapital.com, Solyco capital.com. Find them on Instagram and LinkedIn as well. I will certainly put all of those in the notes of the show. Thanks again, Sarah.
Thanks, George. So great to
Until next time, remember, do your part by doing your best.